All right, welcome back everyone to our Real Talk Tuesday. This month we are excited to be back and to share with you. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we are excited to talk about this and discuss about the importance of good mental health. Tonight, we're going to introduce our team once again. Brittany Stevenson, Sister Brianna Branch, Sister Miosha Crimpin,
hey.
Reverend Kenny Watson, myself, Reverend Brandon Gale. And tonight we have my wife with us, who is a licensed social worker who also works on the path to practices psychotherapy. And so she is a licensed social worker, but she practices in the path of psychotherapy, a licensed therapist. And so we're excited to have her join Sister Ambrose Watson Gale. Hey, let's give her a hand clap. Yay. All right.
Hey, girl.
Hey. So let's jump right in tonight. Let's just talk about each of us. This is for the group. What is mental health? What is mental health? When we think about it, what is mental health to us?
Being in sound mind, clarity of mind.
Okay.
Mentally.
Quality and well-being of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
I agree with that.
So calling names. Brianna, what is mental health?
I would echo that. It's the well-being of your mind, how you take care of it, that sort of thing.
Oh, and how you take care of it's good. All right. Miosha, I want to hear
I agree with them. I agree with what they say.
Oh, you gonna take the shortcut? You just gonna say I agree with that? Okay. All right.
It's our mental health is responsible for how we see ourselves, how we see and respond to ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us.
Wow.
Okay.
So
that's the clinical definition.
That's the clinical
from our therapist.
Right.
Yeah.
From our therapist. Yeah. Is the clinical definition. Say it one more time. Say it one more time, please. Please.
It's responsible for how we see ourselves, how we see and respond to ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us, right? It's our perceptions, our thoughts, our insight. It's how we process and interpret information, right? It's the origin of our judgment, our decision-making, and our reason. So it's a combination of all those things.
Wow.
And then in turn, it informs our behavior and our patterns, our way of life.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so she gave us the clinical definition of mental health. And just to put a disclaimer here, we do have an 8-month-old, so you're going to see little Gracie in the mix. So,
real life.
We're doing the best we can right now. We have a real life situation going on, so we're doing the best we can to that. All right. But just want to give some statistics that I found off of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is www.nami.org. And it says 1 in 5 in the U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 5. 1 in 20 U.S. adults experience serious mental illness each year. Okay. Yeah, and it just, a lot of people, one thing that when I was reading, it says that a lot of people feel like, they're alone when it comes to their mental health, but it tells us that you are not alone. It says 20.6% of the U.S. adults experienced mental illness in 2019. That breaks it down to 51.5 million people, which represents the 1 in 5 adults. And some other statistics, I just want to just give a few of them. A non-Hispanic white makes up 22.2% of people who are dealing with mental illness. Non-Hispanic Black or African American is 17.3%. And the mix or multiracial population is 31.7%.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And all this is on the website. Now, out of all the disorders that are out there as far as dealing with mental illness, anxiety disorders is 19.1%, which is 48 million people in the U.S. deals with anxiety.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So I just want to pose a question. Why do you think that, to the group, why do you think that so many people deal with anxiety?
Because they don't go see people like Miss Amherst, and they try to process on their own, and obviously they don't know how to do it themselves. So it builds up, and so you're just anxious.
Okay. Someone else? Why do you
Life
think
is hard? I mean, it sounds a little weird coming from somebody from like so young, I guess. I don't know, but life is difficult. There are always stressors in life, and it can be difficult to deal with them. And even just thinking about having to deal with them can start making you feel like, sort of fluttery or anxious inside. So it doesn't surprise me that there's that many people that suffer from it. Right.
Would you think, Reverend Kenny?
I would. It surprises me that I thought it was higher. I thought it would be higher than that.
Right.
So I think it potentially, it probably is higher. And I think that's due to the fact that people are probably experiencing anxiety and don't even know that they are.
Right.
Because I think from a fundamental, maybe we should establish maybe what is anxiety, because some people may be feeling it and like have no idea actually like really what it is. And I think because before you can overcome it, right, I think you probably need to identify that you are experiencing it, right? Because a lot of people I would think are maybe in denial in reference to the fact that they're even experiencing it. And I mean, for most of us, common sense would tell us that people of color, as you've already stated, are probably more prone to anxiety.
Right.
Just by mere fact of the color of your skin.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I think, I mean, from a clinical perspective, I think it's important for us to just share with people what anxiety is, because they may be experiencing it right now and don't even realize it.
Right.
Right. So anxiety is our body's natural response to a perceived or an actual threat, right? So it helps. The primary goal or primary purpose of anxiety is to keep us safe, right? So then if somebody's trying to break into our house, our body will tell us, hey, you're in danger. Somebody's trying to break in, so act and do something. It becomes an issue, though, when our body's natural alarm is set off over and over and over and over again, right? And to the point where it impacts our relationship, it impacts how we see the world, it impacts our day-to-day life, right? And that's caused by a variety of things. It can be environmental. It can be because, we live in a fear-based society. You have things like social media that trigger, fear-based thoughts or make us believe that things are a threat and they actually aren't. So like I would say the symptoms of anxiety are, you feel like you're on edge, you're nervous, you're irritable, you have muscle tension, shortness of breath, heart palpitations, and then, overall anxiety attacks, right? So just feeling like you just about to break, you can't take anymore. And it impacts your sleep and impacts your appetite as well.
Well, that was good. Hey, and I think that a lot of times that social media has a lot to deal with, especially in our younger generation, and even some middle-aged, older people, has a lot to deal with their anxiety, like people's anxiety, because people are they're not comfortable with their own selves, and they're trying to be like other people, trying to obtain what other people have, or they see what other people have, and they want to look like another person and all that. I think that has social media definitely had, even though it has a lot of pros, I think that's one of the cons that it presents to people, and it causes people to have anxiety because social media will have you out there, like before you know, you trying to get people trying to get surgery, trying to look like somebody they've seen, or live a certain lifestyle, or instead of people, we're not as comfortable when we didn't have the social media. Even though you still had that, but it wasn't, you didn't see everybody's life like that. You saw,
right.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't see where everybody was going to eat and where people was traveling and all that kind of stuff. But you see that now, so I think that definitely has a lot to deal with anxiety, and of course family dynamics too. Not having certain people in your life and certain parents in your life. So that, I think that can, as far as dealing with younger people, I think that can deal with a lot of anxiety growing up too. Let's see. I was going to share another disorder. I'm trying to find it where I got it highlighted. I have my little page here highlighted. Mood disorders are the most common cause of hospitalization for all people. Grace, excuse us. Mood disorders are the most common cause of hospitalizations for all people in the U.S. under age 45, excluding hospitalizations related to pregnancy and birth. Talking about mood disorders. So basically, we had people walking around with all kinds of mood disorders, and the crazy thing, we don't know what's going on in some people's heads.
Right.
I was thinking about this, and I'm not trying to talk too much, but I was thinking about this when I was reading about, like, how road rage people get on. People get involved in road rage, and they're I say some of y'all guilty, and somebody cross them or cut them off, or they at a light and they won't move when the light turns green. And beating hard, blah, 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 blah. We got to be careful of that kind of stuff now, because
it reminds me of that movie. Did y'all see the movie Unhinged?
Yes, I was just thinking of that movie.
I haven't watched it, but I seen the advertisement. It made me think of it too.
You don't know what people's mind frames, and that's why just maybe last year or so, maybe a couple years ago, I think it was an African American lady who I think got shot because of aggressive, being out there and aggressive driving and things like that. And that's all. You just never know the people around you. You never know, what they're going through. You could be having a bad day, just like us. Some days, we have those days where we just leave me alone today, or whatnot. And somebody say the wrong thing, and it's just,
it's a wrap.
Right, it's a wrap. Well, I mean, we're not going to kill nobody or nothing like that, but you have some people that, they're waiting for the right person to say the wrong thing, and they're ready to take out, and bang, bang. So, so that's my little spiel about that. But mood disorders, that's one of the most common people are being hospitalized for. And this one's a sad statistic. It says 70.4% of youth, the juvenile justice system, have a diagnosed mental illness.
Wow.
70.4%. Now, I just also want to say that these statistics were updated in March. So this year, March 21.
Wow.
But it says 70.4% of juvenile. And why do you think that's so? Why do you think that, people in the youth that's in juvenile, why do you think they have the mental disorders? Do you think they were born with them, or do you think it's something that happened because of their life, because of the way things have happened in their lives as young people, it ended up that way for them? That's a question.
Definitely feel as though they're probably a product of the environment that they were brought up in, or that they weren't brought up in. They weren't in a loving environment. They weren't with a, mom or father or parents that loved them, family that loved them. So, I think, thinking about it, just being surrounded by love, fosters a sense of security. And imagine not having that and how angry one would feel, or, uptight, or, moody, as you mentioned, mood disorder. So I definitely think it has to do with that. So when you say juveniles, so they're like in juvenile detention centers and things like that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the juvenile justice system, yes.
Okay. Wow.
If I choose to fall back, sorry.
Go ahead, Brianna.
If I choose to fall back on my little small 5-class psych minor requirement, I would say that it's like a mixture of both. It can sometimes be like, the product of your environment, but sometimes there are people that are born with connections that weren't made or faulty transmitters in the brain or something like that can lead to these sort of disorders expressing themselves in their everyday life. And it's not something that they can control. It's something that runs in their family or they're predisposed for it. And all it takes is being in some sort of like environment to kick it into action, or even just time sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I try to look at things from as simplistic as possible.
Yeah.
And for a lot of juveniles, a lot of times their basic needs aren't even being met, right?
Right.
So they're not. We take for granted things that they don't even have access to, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people in certain areas, just as simplistic as they don't have anything to eat, right? So they're constantly in survival mode, right? It's like they're raising themselves because they don't have a parental influence. They go to school, come home, don't have anything to eat. Oftentimes don't have a comfortable bed to lay their head. So they're dealing with so many things beyond their control. And I would think that would cause some problems.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, you guys know how it is, man. When you're hungry, you know how you get when you're hungry,
right?
And how set off you can be on, and how on edge you are.
Yeah.
Just imagine that feeling every day, right? So I mean, that could trigger a lot in people's responses just because they're not getting basic needs fulfilled at home.
That's good. You was gonna say something, man?
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things that comes to mind from a relational perspective is just that limited support network that may be available for juveniles, right? So when we think of somebody who's in crisis or has mental health issues or experiencing a mental health disorder, one of the things that we assess and look for as therapists is how much of a social support system that they have, right? Because we know that a limited social support network can cause, increased risk of a crisis, right? Or, suicidal ideation and even, harm to self. So that's how important having a support network can be in helping to alleviate, the mental health issues and some of those symptoms that they may experience, feeling alone and things like that.
Okay. Okay, little greasy. All right. That's good. Depression and anxiety. Depression is our anxiety. And this is my last one. Then statistic. We're going to move on from here. But I just want to get these ones out. Depression and anxiety disorders cost the global economy $1 trillion in lost productivity, each year.
Wow.
Depression and anxiety disorders cost the global economy $1 trillion in lost productivity each year. People are depressed, and people with the anxiety disorders, it causes the economy $1 trillion. Wow. That's major. That was my last one statistic we'll talk about. So just to transition a little bit. So what do you think are some good coping skills, or what do you use as the group? What do you use for coping skills as far as keeping your good mental health? If what do you use? What do you do to keep your mind clear, to keep good mental health? What are your activities? Don't all talk at once.
I like music. I'm a music person, so definitely turn on the music and just sing. And if I feel like if I sing sing it out, just sing out those emotions. If I need to cry them out, sing them out, that helps. And I'm a person, I like to sit outside in my car. I don't know if anybody else does this, but I can sit outside in my car and just look at stuff move around me. Cars move, people walk or whatever. That's a vibe to me, especially when it's nice. That's mental wellness to me. Like I could, your mind can just go wherever you need it to go and then come back and it's refreshed. So those are two things definitely that I can, pull from.
For myself, so my career is very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
But I choose to not be stressed about it, right? Because there's a lot of things that I can't change anyway, right? So I just try to help people the best way I can. But for myself, if I feel myself getting overwhelmed, by life, by all the things that you're responsible for, then I'll either take a trip or I'll take a walk. And contrary to what people believe, I am a loner. So I spend a lot of time alone in my thoughts. I understand myself. I process things. I read. I spend a lot of time alone. And that's helpful for me. When you give so much to other people, you have to be able to give to yourself too, right? So I do. I'll take a trip by myself. I'll go wherever. And that just helps me with my own mental clarity, right?
That's awesome. Brie.
I'm also really big on music. That's really important to me. I'll cue together a bunch of songs and I'll just sit in bed and I'll turn on fairy lights and I'll just lay there and I'll listen and the music will just reflect the feeling that I'm feeling, or at least that's what I try, and that helps me express it that way. I have also recently gotten into journaling because sometimes it can be difficult to talk to other people about what's going on in your head. And sometimes people think you're crazy if you talk to yourself in the mirror about what's going on in your head. So my journal works just fine. Me time with talking to Brianna in the mirror or writing it down in a journal helps. And Pilates. Pilates has seemed to help too. Exercising.
Okay, that's cool. Reverend Kenny?
A lot of the things you mentioned, some of you have mentioned already, but I guess things in addition to that for me are I use this app called Calm, which helps out. I like to read a lot. I'm a real advocate for self-care. So I like to take care of myself. And this is simple stuff, right? Going to the barbershop every week, getting my hair cut.
Week, huh?
Doing other things. I mean, you just going to the store just to look and browse.
Right.
Although browse usually turns into buying.
Yeah.
But just some self-care stuff. And another thing, I'm a proponent of talking to someone. And not just anyone.
Right.
I believe in talking to professionals. So I'm an advocate for therapy. So I mean, I think that's important because a lot of times one of my defense mechanisms for stress is just to ignore things and ignore people and ignore negativity. But sometimes you do need an outlet for that. And you want to guard yourself and be careful who you talk to. So again, I'm a proponent of therapy. I know we're probably going to talk about that a little bit because a lot of times, the word therapy is taboo within the Black community, and it's almost double taboo within the faith community within the Black church. But again, I'm a big proponent of that.
Okay. We mentioned some things that I do too. I like Reverend Kenny, I like to go to the store. I like to walk around stores. If it's the grocery store or wherever, That helps me. Most time that's where I go: grocery store, Sam's Club, Walmart. And sometimes I'll be grocery shopping, but I'll be there just looking at stuff, just trying to, and just let whatever, see what's going on. I love grocery stores. I love, I'm not really a big shopper. 'Cause I like to cook and stuff like that. So, and I think
they throwing shots at you, Reverend. They throwing subliminal shots. Like you like going to the grocery store to check out.
I like going to the grocery store.
There's nobody on this line named they.
I won't let them do it.
Because guess what? All y'all go to the grocery store too.
Definitely do. Well, no, actually, since Corona, I've been a big proponent of the grocery pickup. Loved it.
Right. So I mean, but that's what I like to do. I like to listen in my car, listen to music. Because being in school, working from home, being in being in our house, all the time. So even if I don't have nowhere to go, sometimes I got to go sit outside in my car or whatever, and just listen to some music, just to have just to get something, like you said, like Brittany was saying, just like to see something different, to see people walk, to see there's a world out there that's actually functioning. Because when you sit in the house 2 or 3 days a week, and you're just looking at the same walls, that can start to be a little depressing.
Yeah, and it's monotonous. You've got to break that up.
Especially when you came from a field where you was out and, you were out every day. And you woke up, you went to work, you're outside of the home, and to be in the house for over a year and a half now, that if I didn't have those moments where I got a chance to get out and, experience, other people as far as seeing them and stuff like that, I think that would have messed me up mentally, because you detach from people, you're detached from socializing with people, even if it's like when I go to the store, Walmart or Food Line or something like that, you do have small interactions with people. It might be something that you see on sale, and you might see somebody, they might get the same thing. You strike a conversation. What I'm saying? That's interacting with people.
Crab legs on sale this weekend.
Now that happens all the time. That do happen. Going to Acme when the crab legs is $9.99. Right. There can be all kinds of new people. I met a lady that sells platters one time. So.
Right. Yeah. So you get surprised at the people that you meet just standing in line.
True.
Standing in line or at the frozen food section or whatever. So that's good. And
Brandon, we weren't throwing shots at you. Don't let Reverend Watson tell you that.
You think I'm paying attention to that?
Don't do it.
Never. Never.
So that's good. And of course, like Reverend Watson said, Reverend Kennedy said that, seeing somebody professional, if I need to do that, I do it. Amherst, what are some good? Hold on, please. What are some good coping mechanisms that we could practice? That we could put into practice to keep good mental health.
So one thing that's good for improving mental health and stress management is just the concept of self-soothing, and what that is taking your five senses and addressing those in order to help ground yourself and to remain in the present moment. And that's good for anxiety too. So for hearing, you would want to engage in something that brought pleasure to that sense, right? Same thing for sight, smell, touch, and taste. So that's one thing, just developing. And I know some people develop what's called a self-soothing or sensory kit to help with that too, so that they can sit in that space, to practice stillness and engage in that. Another thing is just making sure your life has meaning, so that you're living a value-based life. So you can identify whatever your top 3 values are, and then to make sure that every day those values are in some way incorporated into your routine. And then lastly, I would say just being purposeful, intentional with addressing like your thought life. Because we know that thoughts create feelings, and feelings create behaviors. So you want to make sure you're addressing and you're aware of your thinking patterns, right? And thinking errors that may be present. So clinically, they're called cognitive distortions. And there are about 10 or more, it's a variety of them. So, and you could just Google that, right, and look through the list. Or if you're working with a therapist, you all can discuss it.
What was that called again?
Cognitive distortions. So simplified, just errors in thinking.
Okay. That
impact how we feel.
Okay.
And can cause unwanted behavior and patterns.
Okay. That's good. We mentioned this earlier, just very briefly, but a lot of people don't know what therapy actually is. TV will let you think that going to therapy, everybody see, in different episodes or different movies that you see somebody just going to sit on the couch.
Right.
Laying on the couch and and they're just talking to the doctor, and the doctor sitting there with their glasses at the end of the nose and say, well, what brings you in today, and all that kind of crazy stuff. But what is Amherst, what is therapy? What therapy? What is therapy?
So psychotherapy is clinical treatment involving a collaboration, a partnership, right? So you're doing it together. Nobody's telling you what to do, between a client and a therapist. And this collaborative partnership addresses a variety of emotional, relational, and behavioral needs or problem areas. And what makes therapy unique is the treatment approach that's often used by the therapist. And this it depends on what the therapist specializes in, right? So it's a variety of treatment approaches. It could be cognitive behavioral therapy. It could be dialectical behavioral therapy, person-centered therapy. It just depends, right? So that's what makes it different from just talking about your problems or your needs, your issues with a friend. And then also it involves that safe space so that you can be yourself, you can express yourself free of judgment and shame. So that's what creates a healing factor as well. And then, of course, the ultimate goal of therapy is to improve your overall well-being and to create, behavior change.
Okay, that's good. So this question is to the group. Why do you think, knowing what Sister Amherst just told us, why do you think people are reluctant to go into therapy? Why do you think they don't want to go?
Fear of judgment, because therapy, that was a taboo word. Obviously now people throw out therapy. They use that word. Oh my God, I'm in therapy. They talk about it now. But before, therapy was for crazy people, and no one wants to be a crazy person. So no one wanted to go to therapy. And then, so yeah, it was just that taboo. I think that was connected to it. Of it being for crazy people.
Mm-hmm. The stigma.
Yeah, definitely the stigma.
And I also feel like some people don't feel that there's anything wrong with their behavior, or they don't want to address certain issues. Like some people are just like, I'm fine. Like, this is just the way I am. This is the way I've been brought up. This is how everybody knows that I am, and that's how they perceive me. Right. So I do think that sometimes people just be in denial, like, no, I don't need help. I'm fine, So definitely one of those things.
When everybody around them says otherwise, right?
Right.
It's them. It's not me.
When you walk in the room, like when you have that presence, you're going to walk in and people going to be like, here we go. And it's going to go one of two ways. It's going to be like, oh my God, I'm so glad to see you. I've been waiting for you all my life. Or you're going to walk in the room, it's going to be like, well, where's my keys? One of those kind of situations. So I don't want to be on that end of it, but
right.
That's how it is. That's how it is. That's why you got to separate yourself from certain energies and certain vibes and negative behavior and stuff, because you just don't want to have that in your life. Right. So.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I know in the faith community, it's this idea that therapy supplements your faith, right? Your belief in God.
Yeah, well, that's where I was actually going.
So yeah, attending therapy discredits God's power and his ability, to make things happen or to change things in your life. So I think that's what blocks a lot of people in the Christian community from seeking therapy, because they don't see it as something that complements wellness, right? They see it as something that supplements it. And a lot of times, you know, when you think of self, you want to think of the three components, right? Mind, body, spirit. And they're not thinking of that, right? They're merging the three of them together, right? Mm-hmm. So it blocks them from moving forward and seeking counseling. And then, you know, the issues with, you know, mistrust and things like that. What is this person going to do with my deep, dark secrets and my information and things like that? So just lack of education about the legal and the ethical, you know, role and guidelines of therapy as well. I think that's a barrier too.
So now that you mentioned that, so just to let everyone know out there, Facebook and YouTube and social media land, when you go see a licensed therapist, what standards are they held to when it's keeping your stuff confidential?
They can't tell your business. They cannot tell your business. The only time, the only exception, right. So if you're subpoenaed, right, mm-hmm. or if you say, hey, or if you express, or if they suspect that you want to harm yourself or someone else, that you're a threat to yourself or someone else, right? Mm-hmm. Or if, you know, you've been sexually abused, if a child is being, you know, sexually abused, right, then you have to step out. Or, you know, a child is just being physically abused, you have to report that. Those are the guidelines. But anything else, they can't tell, right, unless you give them what's called a release of information, right? You sign off that they can share your information, and then you have to sign off what specific information they can share.
Yeah. Just to think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So in response to your question about, you know, why maybe don't people go to therapy? I think potentially one of the reasons, and you can answer this, Amherst, as to the truth of it. Some people may not go because they don't know how to access it, and potentially they don't think they can't afford it. They don't know what the cost aspect is. Yeah. Because reality is, right, your mental and your physical well-being are tied together, mm-hmm. right? So a lot of the reasons why people don't go to the doctor are the same reasons why they don't seek out a therapist, right? And a lot of it has to do with access, and they don't have the insurance, they don't have, you know, they don't think they can afford it. So can you speak to that a little bit about I guess maybe who's a good candidate for therapy, right? and then how do they access it? And just speak to maybe about the cost associated with it, if you don't mind.
Sure. So anyone's a good candidate, right? Especially those who have realized that their sense of normalcy has been interrupted in some way, or, you know, like we spoke earlier, people who experience, you know, mood changes and things like that. So they have really intense, what we call symptomology, right? So you're a candidate of therapy if you experience that, but really anybody. So if you're experiencing, you know, relational issues, trouble setting, you know, boundaries with other people, right? You think of women who just had babies, like if you're experiencing postpartum mental issues, right? You're a candidate for therapy. So it's a variety of things. And then to speak to the access piece. So there are different type of resources available for people who are underinsured, or, you know, they don't have the benefits or they don't have benefits at all. So one of the directories is called Openpathcollective, and it's openpathcollective.org, and they offer discounted therapy. So the therapy rate starts at $30, and then it can't go any more than to $60 per session. And then that's a deep discount for therapy, right? And then there are also some other resources I can't think of them by name who offer also pro bono counseling. So it's available, you know, if you want it. It just might take, you know, a Google search, some research, maybe asking your primary care doctor or things like that. And then you can also, if you have insurance, you can call your insurance company and say, hey, you know, I'm seeking a mental health therapist in this area for this issue. You know, can you help me out? And they can guide you with that. And then in addition to that, there are popular directories to go to find a therapist. One is Therapy for Black Girls, And then the other is psychologytoday.com. So it's, it's out there. Therapy.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would also think potentially people of color may be reluctant to therapy too, because they want to talk to someone who looks like them, right?
Oh yeah.
They don't they don't want to talk with, maybe someone of another color. They feel more comfortable talking to somebody who has a similar, hue as them and has a similar background. So because I believe that. What do you think about? Is that a falsehood when you say it's hard to find people of color that do therapy?
No, I don't think so, because they're out there, right? And then you can also these directories allow you to refine. Well, therapy for Black girl is mostly like Black therapists, right? And then you have therapy for Black men, right? So you have Black men on there for Black men. And then, for Psychology Today, I believe you can refine your search, or you can look at their image and you can see how many, providers of color, come up. So they're out there. Yeah. Now, do they take your insurance? Right. That's a different that's a different story, but they're out there.
Well, that's good. We actually got a little ahead because I was going to talk about resources, but that's good. You've already answered that. But I want to go back to as far as the with the church, how people in the church sometimes, well, especially in the past, I think they're starting to get. I noticed that more churches are starting to get involved in the mental health ministry. Their mental health ministry, where they actually have counselors that go to their church, and they're starting to become they're starting to have people in their congregation that they can help divert people to different organizations or different therapists or whatnot, like grief ministry and so on. But for a while there, when you talk, especially in the Black church, when you talked about going to therapy, it was like, what are you talking about? We hear, oh, Jesus is a wonderful counselor and he can do that. No, yes, he is. But but he also put people on this earth that we can talk to to get some help, to get some mental help. So why do you think so long that the church has been against, or should I say against, or
can I step in real quick, just to one more thing to add to Kenny's question, like who's a candidate. So if ever there's like an interruption in we call them the 4 L's. So like your ability to live, laugh, love, and learn, it's time to seek counseling. It may be time to seek counseling. So live day to day, laugh, find humor and joy in life, love, build fulfilling relationships, and learn, right? Be intellectually stimulated, and adapt to new information. It may be time.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So how us being all, in the church, how do you think that, why do you think the church, was against counseling for so long, and what do you think that we could do to make it more relevant to the people in our congregation, as far as wanting them to seek the counseling if they need it?
I think just like you said, basically, that Jesus is a wonderful counselor. So because you have Jesus, you don't need anything else. So I think that people feel like by me going to counseling, it's like I don't have faith in God, Mm-hmm. But the Bible, faith without works is dead. So you got to do something. You can't just say God is gonna, it's like, like the parables that you hear, God saved me from this storm and God sent the boat, but the people didn't get on the boat, but that was God helping you. So you got to do your part, So like I'm like, like it was said, previously, there are, we go to the doctor when we're sick, you got a cold, you got the flu, you got another illness, you go to the doctor, to take care of that physical aspect of your body. So, our therapists, our, psychiatrists, psychologists, those are the mental aspects. So you should take advantage of that. as well. But I do think that it's because people think that if you go to therapy or if you you seek counseling, that it's like it shows a lack of faith, but it doesn't. It shows that to me, I would think it's like, God, I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to be my best self, so that I could be a living witness. That's how I see it. But whatever.
Well, that's good.
Definitely an act of inner strength.
Right, because it's hard to admit. You know what? Right now, life is heavy, so I need something else. I need something additional. That is hard to admit that. So when you do, it's like, okay.
Yeah, and it's difficult to practice that level of, emotional vulnerability, right? Because you're at risk when you're being open that way.
I think that demographics also play a big role in it, because I think if you look at, people like from the South or, from the Eastern Shore or, from a more rural area where when stuff happens, when life happens, you are taught to deal with it, right? If you're a man, you going through stuff. If you're like a country burly man, it's taboo. Like, my family, they're from the country. Like, it's taboo. If my dad walked through the door and said, Miosha, I think I'm going to go to therapy, I would be very surprised. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's, depending on your demographics and how you're raised, things are just different for different people. And if those resources aren't necessarily at your disposal, then that's not going to be the first thing that you think about when you're going through stuff, right? But if we're somewhere in a city and you got all these different places on every other block, then, and you hear it all the time, like your whole life, if you have a problem, talk to somebody. Then when you get a problem, you're like, okay, I need to go to such and such and talk to somebody. So I think the demographics, that plays a big role in things. So, yeah.
And one thing, what was your question?
I feel like all of that is sort of wrapped up in the idea of like cultural rules or traditions, because it's difficult to break tradition. It's difficult to step outside of what the cultural or societal norm is. And just like society outside of church has norms and rules that you follow, the church has those as well. And it's had those since the time it was established. And it can just be really difficult to say, okay, I'm going to be different. I'm going to take my own path because I think this is what's right for me. I'm going to break this norm, because everybody knows once you break a norm, everybody's like, excuse me, what are you doing? Why is she like that? Like, it's that sort of idea. So to make it better, you have to have people like within the church who are willing to step out with you and show that they support that, like, this is something that we need to work on. This is something that we need to fight for.
And then another thing, what was your question?
Why people are reluctant to go into therapy?
I thought it was something else, because I was going to speak about the leadership. One thing that could help encourage them to go is if they see that the leadership is modeling, good mental wellness habits, right? If the leadership, the people who are most influential are talking about, hey, I'm getting my mental health check-in or something like that, that would encourage and influence the people to do it. You remember the preacher who took the sabbatical for rest and wellness it might have been like a year or so ago, right? He was really influential. So I'm pretty sure he can encourage a lot of people to, do that as well, and brought that into the church arena. So yeah, I think it starts with the leadership.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think what we're doing now helps, because I think the more people are aware, it's going to be a slow turn, because a lot of times people are so set in tradition, as Brianna stated.
Right.
But I think the more awareness we bring, the more we talk about it, I think leadership does need to have some accountability in it, because their voice carries so much weight. It has to be prioritized, right? Because a lot of times we have, like for instance, we have a health ministry at the church, right?
Right.
What does the health ministry focus on? Only physical well-being, right? And we completely, as a church, ignore everybody's mental state. So it's just got to be a priority. I mean, we got to talk about it more. Unfortunately, a lot of times in church and within our families, we don't have examples of people who have participated in the mental therapy experience, right? We don't have examples of others who do it, and so a lot of times we're reluctant to do it. But I think people just have to prioritize it and continue to bring awareness, because it's so important, especially coming out of COVID, right? Because we talk about it, and Brandon, you and I have had conversations about it. Mm-hmm. How are we going to minister to people when they come back into the church, right? What are we going to tell them? What are we going to tell them? Just pray about it? Yeah, of course, prayer is important, right? Prayer works, but we have to be able to equip them with practical things that they can do every day. Because people are experiencing so much, right? And we are going to have to be able to minister a lot more effectively than we have in the past.
Absolutely.
Because people are dealing with so much mental trauma right now.
Absolutely.
I don't think we have any, because we're talking about the physical impact of COVID, right? And, you talk about COVID and we talk about long COVID. But we're not even really talking about the mental danger of what COVID it has done to everybody. So, I mean, the church, man, we can't ignore it, man. We really can't ignore it. And you're right. Leadership has to set the example and begin to talk about it more.
Right. Well, this has been wonderful. This has been a wonderful conversation, a wonderful dialogue. Right now, our daughter is stuck underneath the chair, I think. So I had to try to get her. Facebook, Land, YouTube, social media. Thank you for bearing with us tonight with our baby girl. We definitely want to thank Amorous for.
Yes, thanks, Am.
Yeah,
we appreciate you, sis. We appreciate you.
Well, thank Amorous. But before we go, hold on 1 second. Okay. Where's that? It's over there somewhere. It's just wonderful. Okay. Before we go, I got this rapid fire question we're gonna do, and this is kind of funny, but it pertains to mental health. So, if you had the opportunity for any celebrity to be your mental health therapist, who would it be and why? If you had the opportunity for any celebrity you can think of that would be your therapist, who would you choose and why?
Do they need to be a good therapist?
Right. Well, right. No, that was my question.
This is your answer. If you had the opportunity for any celebrity to be your therapist, who would you choose and why? Go ahead.
I would do Taraji Henson.
Taraji who?
Taraji Henson.
Okay. Why?
Because I think she would give it to you straight, and she'd be humorous in the process.
Okay.
And she already does like the mental health stuff in the community. She got a little background,
right.
Mental health background.
Okay.
And she's from the DMV. So.
Right, she's from the DMV. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll stay in the DMV footprint. And I would pick Dave Chappelle.
Oh wow!
Dave Chappelle's from Silver Spring.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would pick Dave Chappelle because he's funny, right?
But he could.
No matter what I was going through, I'm sure he could make me laugh through it. And is very, even though he's a comedian, is very insightful.
Right.
And, a person who, because you remember at the height of his career, he was on Comedy Central and he had the Dave Chappelle show.
Right.
He was going strong, and then he walked away from $40 million.
Yeah.
right? And stopped working for like 10 years.
Right.
And now he's rebounded and recovered from all of that.
Crazy.
So he can certainly speak to me in reference to what it feels like to be down. But you were able to pick yourself back up. So I would say Dave Chappelle. That would be my celebrity therapist.
Okay. Now it can be more than one if you want to. I mean, it don't have to be.
Okay. Oh, well, you didn't tell us that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, you already
It more than one.
Chappelle, so your turn is over.
It can be more than one.
So I have mine. So, okay, so now I have mine. So so you said we could have more than one. So I would have two. Don't do that.
I'm sorry. I should have said
would,
that it could be more than one.
My two would be Sarah Jakes Roberts, because why not? I absolutely love her. I thank God that during this pandemic, she was one of the people that I started following. I started following her ministry, started reading her books, things like that. And I like her delivery as far as a preacher, and just the whole hey girl and the just the woman evolve. I really like that. So that would be one of my therapists. That would enrich the spiritual and the feminine side and all of that. And then my second therapist would have to be Reggae John Page. You guys know Reggae John Page from Britain, and if you don't know who he is, please Google Reggae John Page, and you already know why he would be my second therapist, because I would just sit there and just be in awe of how gorgeous this man is in the whole entire session. And I feel like even if I went in there low, like just looking at him and listening to that accent, and he actually is really smart. Like, to hear him interview, he's actually really smart. So I would just feel like I would just leave from there feeling like, yes, I would be in therapy every week just because of that. So, and when your heart is happy, you're happy. So I feel like that's a vibe. So there's a spiritual aspect of it. And then there's that eye candy, but yes, enriching conversation. So yeah, Sarah Jakes Roberts, Reggae John Page.
Okay. Next.
Brianna said she looked like he's still pondering. I'm gonna choose two as well, right? I'm gonna choose an older person and a younger person.
Okay.
And
don't pick Cicely Tyson. She did.
Like Viola Davis would definitely be my therapist, because I feel like it don't matter what movie she's in, she's always gonna tell you the right thing to do. Like I just really admire her. And then Issa Rae, like Issa is so intelligent and she just owns herself, and she's also very comedic. Like, and I really admire the person that she is. So I know that if she was my therapist, like, I would just be like, girl, let me tell you about this. And then if I went to Viola, I have to be like, listen. So, two different approaches, like two different people. So, but I think they would give me sound advice.
Right.
Okay. I think I got it. Mine are music based. Okay, so my two therapists, one of them is going to be Kirk Franklin, and it is simply because for some reason, just like my whole entire life, like he's just been my best friend. He does not know me. I do not know him personally. But I get so excited when I listen to his music, when I see his performance.
Definitely a little hype man.
Like when he posted it, and his little outfits are so cute. He's like
very fun size.
So I feel like he'd be a great person to talk to. I feel like he could give some good advice too. I get the godly perspective, and then
sometimes not the godly perspective,
and sometimes we all need that dual perspective. And then my second person would have to be Frank Ocean. He's a singer, and I say that simply because he's one of my go-to people for my soundtracks when I'm feeling a little icky. And sometimes even when I'm feeling happy, I know I can play my Frank Ocean playlist, and I don't know, I start processing things a little more. I can talk myself through some things. It's like this cool vibe, and he expresses happiness. He also expresses like sadness in his songs and stuff, and it feels relatable and it helps me. So I feel like that could be my second therapist.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump back in since I only said one. I don't want to take up too much time.
No do-overs, Ken.
But since everybody had two, I'm gonna say three people. So Dave Chappelle, Lettucey, and Jill Scott.
I knew he was gonna pick Jill. I knew he was gonna pick Jill.
Yes.
Auntie Jilly from Philly. I knew he was gonna pick her.
Jill's like a round-away girl. But a thing again, we've mentioned a lot of times tonight. Music, certainly helps, and both of them have very soothing voices, and it just kind of calms me down. But they also have a side to them that's very fun, energetic, and bubbly, which certainly would help. So those are my three.
Had to just go three.
You had to do it. You had to
just do two.
My real quick. My first one would be Ricky Smiley.
Oh.
Ricky Smiley. Well, because Ricky Smiley's from the church, but he has a little hood in him too.
He definitely does.
And also,
he's local too, right?
Right, and also because he's a good father. He's raised children that wasn't even his, and they've grown up to be successful. And how he takes care of there's a lady called Miss Janie that he takes care of. I think she was a neighbor of his.
Yes.
And how he looks after the elderly, and just he's very insightful. He's a tell like it is person. Mm-hmm. And he also has like I said, the Christian background, but also he's very comical too. He has that about him. So
hilarious.
Yes. So I would definitely choose Ricky Smiley. And for some reason, I don't know, I don't even know why, but Samuel L. Jackson. I like Samuel
L. Jackson. Like the Django Samuel Jackson? Or like...
Right. Snakes on a plane.
Right. Yes, because Samuel L. Jackson has one of his movies that I love to see him playing is Shaft.
Oh, I love Shaft.
Over and over again because like how he interacts with his son and stuff. It's just like he's just comical.
That's a good one.
Right. Mm-hmm. And and I believe he's very comical too, and he's been married a long time. He's been married a long time, even in being in Hollywood and all that. And even Denzel Washington, them jokers been married a long time. And
been in Hollywood, longevity in marriages.
And I'm like, if y'all can stay married in Hollywood for 21, 30, 20 some years.
Especially Denzel. I mean, Samuel's not that desirable. Denzel is fine.
Denzel,
it was hard.
Denzel,
y'all doing something right.
It's a nice. Listen, Brandon, when you say Samuel L. Jackson, the only thing that comes to mind is his role in Coming to America. So I'm like, that's a mood right there. That's.
Well, yeah, those would be my three: Samuel, Denzel, Washington, because he's.
Here we go with three.
And Smiley.
Didn't even follow his own directions.
No. Am, who you choosing? Who you choosing?
Amber's chose Taraji P.
Taraji, just one. You just gonna stick with just the one?
Maybe Eddie Murphy. Maybe Eddie Murphy, but definitely Taraji.
Okay, all right, and okay, all right.
Very good. Well, guys, we're gonna wrap this up for the night. It's been fun.
Yes, it has, and informative.
Amber, for joining.
Thank you, Am.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Am.
Thank you.
All right, y'all stay well, be blessed, and if you need the mental, you need to seek somebody. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't be ashamed of it, but seek somebody for your mental health.
Do it for your family,
right?
The people around you.
Exactly.
That's right. And not for yourself.
All right. Well, we signing off. Thank God for you. Have a good night.